Brendon, what do you think of this deal? Where's your head at with the Rob Dillingham to Minnesota deal?
Yeah, I mean, my tweet on this went around a little bit last night. Minnesota fans were like, Tim Connolly, chestnut checkers, which was hilarious, as if I'm like some kind of Wolves fan that was pumping them up after.
I mean, you are like number one Rudy Gobert trade supporter guy that I know in my life, so kind of true.
I mean, everybody caught up to me this spring, though, right? I mean, are we still?
Nah. You were light years ahead of that.
Well, I'm happy to be first, but are there still like Wolves haters? I mean, I feel like everybody kind of got on board. They were like the most entertaining thing in the postseason, while everything else sucked.
Everyone got on Ant. I don't think everyone necessarily got on like embracing Rudy Gobert.
Look, I'll again make the distinction. I do not love Rudy Gobert. I just think the trade was never as bad as everyone claimed that it was. That's it. But on this trade, the chestnut checkers aspect of it that got Wolves fans hyped on draft night on Wednesday was me pointing out. And honestly, me calling this like a loophole is a little bit of an exaggeration, I would say. It's not as if it's this out-of-the-box, crazy, no one could have ever thought of it thing, but it is a little bit of a loophole in that basically this trade, Chris, by going just so high on the price to acquire the 8th overall pick in this draft and go get somebody like Rob Dillingham, the Wolves had no other avenues to get a player that makes as much money or is as highly valued in that he's young and talented as Dillingham. There's no way. They are a second-apron team. In the free agent market, they're only able to use minimum contracts. There's some world in which, some fans were pulling back at me and saying, like, well, we could have re-signed, like, Kyle Anderson and traded him, and that would open up a salary slot. And it's like, honestly, good luck. I don't think that was going to happen. So, and is the player you're getting as good as Dillingham? Probably not. So, from a value standpoint, from a being up against it and trying to deal with all of those limitations that the CBA has kind of put on teams and still getting a great player, I kind of have no choice but to tip my cap to Connolly. But obviously, what those picks end up becoming, how high they are, all that, we'll find out when we're all much older. And if Dillingham hits or not, we'll see that as well. So I don't know. What do you think? Did you like Dillingham? Do you think he is going to be able to hold up in the NBA? Is he the right kind of player for them to go get, given what they needed?
I think I would have probably preferred they use this on some kind of wing who's a little bit bigger. I just think doubling down on that, to me, makes some sense, right? Like, I think getting someone else there, maybe like you're thinking a Kyle Anderson successor, to me would have made a little more sense.
Okay. So Ant point guard in that world?
But that's the thing, right? It's like, do you need a Mike Conley succession plan at some point? You're not really going to be a team that can trade for like an expensive point guard on the market. Like, you can't be the Garland team. You can't be the DeJounte team, right? Like, it doesn't really, unless you're trading Gobert or trading Cat, which doesn't seem like it's happening imminently, particularly with Cat. I don't think like that was really out there, right? Like, in a veteran minimum guy is like a stopgap thing for this team. So like taking Dillingham and saying, okay, we have time with Conley and Ant to bring him along slowly. We need to get talent. Maybe the cost this year for a talent who had a weird year at Kentucky, who is really young, one of the younger guys in this draft, obviously at 19 in a draft that's skewed a little bit older. That part to makes a ton of sense, where it's like, okay, we can maybe find ways to contribute year one. We don't need him to be a starter from day one, but it's a chance for us to get talent and maybe another first out the door for them at this point is just like, sure, whatever. Like, it's like you already,
yeah.
And
they're so far out that it's like they kept their pick this year and they got Terrence Shannon, which was kind of nice too, to not have they care about now for the draft and for these trades. So it kind of made sense to actually go out that far. I feel like we always think that's worse, but kind of made more sense
for the Wolves. It's like, you figure it out, and you have Ant, and you kind of figure like you can maybe like you have him and Jaden, and you can like try to like, and these guys take care of some of the long term concerns with that. So like I get it. I think Dillingham and Shannon as picks in this draft make tons of sense as far as trying to rebuild your guard rotation, get a little bit younger, get some more offensive juice at those guard spots, but not something you need to solve right now. Like, next year is still going to be Mike Conley's the point guard of your team, but a year from now, is Dillingham the starter on your team? can Shannon
Not to
be a bench
mention,
guy
they
for-
have Nickeil Alexander-Walker still in the mix as well. He had a breakout postseason. I don't know if he's quite a point guard, but he's a playmaking option for you that can dribble and kind of be part of that. And then I think they would hope that Jaden McDaniels has a little bit more scoring punch and creation punch to him over time. So I think, to me, Dillingham is like one of the players they hope can elevate the ceiling of their offense now and in potentially like a post-Cat environment. But I guess one thing is they're definitely a team that's big enough to
absorb
take on.
Yeah.
Exactly. The same way they have been with Conley. Now, Conley's a better defender and he's a vet and everything else, but, they could, of any team in the NBA to take on a weak link size-wise and defense-wise, the biggest, most intense defensive supporting cast in the NBA with the star player who's actually like a plus on that end, and Ant, that's the type of team that should be taking the risk. So from a fit standpoint, we never would have been talking about Minnesota as a Dillingham fit, because why would we?
Why would
But
we?
it works. But it works. So for him, I love it. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a situation in the NBA where Dillingham was more likely to develop than this. It's just from their standpoint, there's a whole lot more pressure on it to actually break that way now.
And look, good on them for what this costs. I mean, Bobby Marks had this. Their tax bill goes from $56 to $84 million with the addition of Dillingham's rookie salary. So the rookie salary
they traded away a guy with a pick in the second round on Thursday to start to dip into that, right? So it shows how much you feel it.
Yeah, you feel this eminently, and even with the cheap contract on the books, you still have these other payments. This isn't like a cheap expenditure to do this. So good for them for going for this. I like that they did this to build this roster and not just say, we're going to go old, we're going to go veteran, we're going to get our version of signing Reggie Jackson or something like that. They are thinking not just about next year, but for the future. And I love when the best teams in the league are not just kind of doubling down and staying too much in the present. The Wolves are thinking about what's to come, and I think that's really smart when you have Ant and who has such a long runway.
Big losers, Dallas, Minnesota, or Dallas, Denver, Phoenix, any of the older teams in the West that didn't just get a lot better, Minnesota and Oklahoma City are fucking coming, and they're better now. So good luck to everyone else, because those two teams added a lot here, and they were already pretty damn good.